Well, hello, Andrew here yet again, and this is episode number 176. And today we're continuing in Matthew chapter 24, and we're looking at Jesus talking about the end times and his return. So we pick up the narrative now in verse 23. We're looking at 23 to 28 today. If anyone says to you, this is Jesus speaking, "Look, here is the Messiah," or "There he is," do not believe it. For false messiahs and false prophets will appear and produce great signs and omens to lead astray, if possible, even the elect. Take note, I have told you beforehand. So, if they say to you, "Look, he's in the wilderness," do not go out. If they say, "Look, he's in the inner rooms," do not believe it. For as the lightning comes from the east and flashes as far as the west, so will be the coming of the Son of Man. Wherever the corpse is, there the vultures will gather. So we imagine the place of God's presence as the place where there are spectacular signs happening. And Jesus is saying, you need to be a little bit careful. It ain't necessarily so. Don't listen to the claims of those who claim to be the real deal, but aren't, because they can't deliver. Don't be taken in by them. And we see the word that is used here for false messiahs and false prophets. The first part of those words is the word that we get our word pseudo from. Pseudo means that which is false, that which is a lie. The thing about things that are pseudo is that they look like the genuine article. They look real, they look impressive. For example, one of my favourite native trees in this country is pseudopanax. There's a whole variety of pseudopanax. I think pseudopanax are beautiful looking trees. I love the shape of the leaves, the colours they have, and the kind of vitality that they exude. But notice the name, it's pseudopanax. They're not the real thing, they're a cheat on the real panax. And the real panax is in fact an Asian plant, it's the ginseng plant. And it's generally, though I went online and had a look, they are small and unimpressive looking. There's a similarity in terms of the leaf shapes to the pseudopanax, the one that looks like it but isn't. But the ginseng has medicinal qualities. It's well known to have therapeutic qualities. I'm not aware of pseudopanax having anything. Pseudopanax look impressive. They look like they're the real deal. But they produce nothing. I still like them. I'd still rather have them in a hedge or around my property, and I've got a few of them. They're beautiful looking plants. But in terms of their curative properties, not so much. As I was reflecting this, I was thinking about The Lord of the Rings. I don't know how many of you have read the book. I've read it a good number of times, particularly probably in my early 20s. Yeah, early 20s to mid 30s. I read it a number of times. Loved The Lord of the Rings. And one of the central characters is one who first appears as a wanderer. He's given the name Strider. He isn't quite dressed in rags, but he's one who travels around. And he's part of a group that are called Rangers. And they're a kind of peacekeeping group, but they're treated with a great deal of suspicion by others. And he's biding his time. Because although he's known as Strider, because he walks with large strides, he's not a friendly, warm, cuddly, cosy looking sort of character. But in fact he's a king in waiting, and his name is Aragorn. And as the group of the central characters, the hobbits, are introduced to him, they're also told a poem about him. And it goes like this. All that is gold does not glitter. Not all those who wander are lost. The old that is strong does not wither. Deep roots are not reached by the frost. From the ashes a fire shall be woken. A light from the shadows shall spring. Renewed shall be blade that was broken. The crownless again shall be kept. And so it's easy to mistake this bedraggled looking figure who looks perhaps more like a beggar than a prince and discount him. But we discover as the story unfolds that he's the real deal. And that when he comes into his kingdom, there is no doubt that this is the king. No doubt. And what we've read in our text today is that when Jesus turns up in his glory, there will be no doubt. For as the lightning comes from the east and flashes as far as the west, so will be the coming of the Son of Man. The crownless will again be king. The coming of the Son of Man. Everyone will see it. Nobody will need to be convinced. No one will need to be talked into it. Come and see. Come out into the desert. Come to our church. Come and see. No, not necessary. Everyone will see it at the same time. Nobody will need to be convinced. Now, the last verse in this text presents a bit of a puzzle. Wherever the corpse is, there the vultures will gather. What on earth is that doing there, and what does it mean? Well, it's interesting to note that the Greek word for vultures and eagles I think is pretty much the same. It could be translated, where the body is, there the eagles will gather. The most common interpretations of this line are that either one, the corpse represents the returning Christ, whose appearance will attract the attention of the entire world, that is, the vultures. Or that the corrupt world is the corpse about to be judged by the returning world. Okay, well, I got both of these interpretations from a side note in the Amplified version. The second one, to me, has a little bit more going for it. The first one, in the end, I'm not too sure about either interpretation. See, the thing that seems to me is that there has to be a sense that the imagery in a metaphor needs to be congruent. It needs to be consistent with what the metaphor is trying to portray. So, for example, for me, there would be something wrong with a picture of Rambo. You kind of already got the mental picture in your head. Draped in ammunition belts with a machine gun with a label underneath, the Peacemaker. At some level, we get that. And for some, they would see this as entirely appropriate. A lot of Christians would think, of course, that's how you make peace. Okay. Yet I want to suggest to you that we actually need to recognize the incongruence of the message and the image. The Peacemaker, actually these things don't go together. I know that there was a Colt gun, handgun, was called the Peacemaker. Okay. I'm not sure that it's real peace if you have to get it at the end of a gun. Not true peace. There's an incongruence between the metaphor, the image in the metaphor, and what it's trying to portray. And so I have that kind of feeling about corpse and vultures applying to the return of Christ. No. No. Did you want to hear that one again? The corpse represents the returning Christ. Does he smell? Is it putrid? Whose appearance will attract the attention of the entire world, that is, the vultures. We're all vultures? All ready to peck at his flesh? Not so much. So, I think that Eugene Peterson gets it exactly right in the message. I was thinking, I could sit with this for 20 minutes and see where I came, and I realised I short-circuited it because I'm fairly sure that it had come to a very similar place to what Eugene Peterson has, and this is what he says. This is Matthew 24 verse 28. Whenever you see crowds gathering, think of carrion vultures circling, moving in, hovering over a rotting carcass. You can be quite sure that it's not the living Son of Man pulling in those crowds. I think he's right. I think he's absolutely right. We're looking for the spectacular, we're looking for the instant sugar rush, the instant buzz, the sense of yes. When Jesus returns in his glory, there will be no mistaking it by anyone. God bless you.